Hi, you can hear me fine?
Yes, perfect.
Great. Yeah, the previous link got lost, so that was my fault.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, thank you for joining me, Elyse. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, and then we'll go straight into the conversation.
Great.
So today I have with me Elyse Poppers, whom I met at Science and Non-Duality in October, this past October. She's a conceptual and performance artist living between Los Angeles and Mendocino County in California. She constructs objects, spaces, and experiences where through engagement, something entirely new emerges. Nice. So I actually want to ask, before I go into the real reason I'm having you here, I want to ask about the conceptual art and the performance art that you do. Yeah. You can share a little about that, that'd be great.
Sure. So I consider myself a conceptual artist because all of my work starts with an idea. And really, depending on what that idea calls for, that's what the work may become. So it could be a visual piece, or it could be a performance, or it could be a book. And my training initially was in performance art and acting. So that was kind of my first entry into making my own work. And I love portraying characters, and I love having direct interaction with an audience and immersing an audience in my work. So yeah, I've enjoyed doing that. My first piece that I did a couple years ago that was really like a public piece involved the diary, a dream diary actually, of a woman named Olive Schreiner who lived over 100 years ago in South Africa. And she was a mystic and a feminist, a political activist really early on. And I created a dream environment where I performed as her, but gradually over the process of a few days, it became more abstract, and I involved the participants and the audience more and more. Mm-hmm. So that's an example.
People would like to see that. Is there somewhere they can go to see that? Or?
I have some clips from it in my Instagram account, which I have under Life Form Projects, mm-hmm. Which is the container that I place my work in. But I'm actually still editing some of the video from that. I would like to share it, and I have some hesitation around it because the experience was so much about being there in presence and experiencing it through the little box and the screen is so different from what how it was intended to be experienced, you know.
So before I dive into all my other questions, my major intriguing point is your book. Book. That's what got me to have this interview with you. Mm. I'm very curious about how a performance artist ends up writing this book. So please share more about what the book is and how you came to want to do this project and share it with the world.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's a surprise to me too. There's a book. That I made a book. But that was the most, that made the most sense in terms of sharing the project. So it started about 2 years ago. I completed this Olive Schreiner dream piece and was thinking about new work, and the question of what is love continued to come up for me, and also this question of where is my heart. And I've been practicing various forms of meditation my whole life, and it's something that I often find myself in quiet spaces where a lot of creative ideas come in a meditative state, and these questions arise, and this question of where is my heart, what is my heart, and then pursuing that just through thought and really allowing ideas to come in and feelings to come in, and wondering, why do we only have one word for it in English? For love, there really is only one word. There's other words like adore or, admire, but they don't really mean love. And we don't use them interchangeably. So feeling like the language wasn't sufficient, and then wondering, okay, what about other languages? And doing some Googling and looking, and I saw a reference in an article saying Sanskrit has 96 words for love. And then I wanted to find this list, like, okay, well, it must be there on the internet where there is everything, it seems, but I couldn't find it. So I started down this long process of making the list myself.
And how were you able to find all these Sanskrit words?
Well, I found a resource online that is a Sanskrit English translation dictionary that's been completely keyword searchable, and a database has been created out of it online, the Monier-Williams Dictionary from 1876. And so I was able to keyword search for love for every word in the dictionary, and Sanskrit has hundreds and thousands of words, way more. English has, 30,000 or something like that. So I got all the results containing the word love, which were thousands. And through there, I just kept editing them down until eventually I had 267.
Nice. Well, it's a fabulous piece, and it's available, right? It's available for people to purchase.
Yes, it's available on Amazon if you search for The Little Love Book or my name. And it's also available through me, and you can contact me through my Instagram page or Facebook.
Awesome. This will be a great holiday gift too.
Yeah, I
And
hope
a
so.
Valentine's gift.
Yes, and Valentine's Day.
So have you always been an artist?
Probably.
I always get that answer. Okay.
Probably. My mother's an artist. She's a painter. My father was a DJ, so I always had a lot of creative people around me, and always made art. But as far as it being this much of a focus in my life, it's really been the past 7 or 8 years. Since I moved to LA, I was in the Bay Area for a long time. I was working as a private investigator.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was my next question. I was going to say, what other jobs have you had? Private?
Yeah. I worked as an art appraiser and for arts organizations for many years. I always loved working with artists, but never felt like I could delve into it myself. I didn't have an access point really, and then ended up working as a private investigator. I love research and I love to write, so that was and I love people. It's fascinating.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know more about your creative process. I guess you sort of explained about how the book came to you, but yes, when you were in that space of putting it together, what was going on, like in your mind, maybe in your environment, and I don't know, just share a little bit more about the process itself.
Sure. Yeah, it was a fascinating process. I think, for me, that's really what I'm most interested in about creativity and making art, is actually experiencing the process, not the product. Mm-hmm. And not being attached to what the product will be, allowing it to take its own form and following the threads and following the feeling that I'm experiencing in my body with it. So really, I think why I continued to let the project grow and really become something that I was prepared to share was that my heart, as just looking at this dictionary and gathering the words together, I was really overwhelmed with a feeling of love. I was home in this apartment in LA in the middle of Hollywood. At the time, I was taking care of my little dog who was not doing terribly well. He was almost 16 at the time. And so we were in a very quiet place. I was really not going out into the world much. I was really focusing on his health. And so it was a quiet project I could take on here, just he and I together. But the experience was just this bursting feeling in my heart, and really like the experience of love pouring through me from not a non-local experience of love, I would say. I had a very powerful heart connection with my dog, and I have powerful heart connections with the people I love, but it really did feel like it was coming through when it was like I would open the computer to sit down to this list, and boom, it was present. And it would shift into sometimes feelings of sorrow, and from joy to sorrow, and really was this powerful river of love that I experienced every time I sat down to work on this.
That's so fascinating.
So I knew I wanted to share that if possible.
Yeah. It's really interesting that, you set out to investigate the words and then you end up experiencing the actual feeling.
Right. And sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, I said that's really a powerful thing, to start out wanting to look into what the words are and then actually experiencing the emotion behind them.
Right. Words are so intellectual, I think, generally, and something that exist in the mind and in ideas, and are not something necessarily that we understand as being on a deeper spiritual plane. But I think what I learned through studying these Sanskrit words and understanding Sanskrit a bit better, outside of mantra or other practices I've had with it, is that they really do, the words, the letters, the actual visual appearance of the letters, but also the sounds, and just relating to the words themselves have a transmission and a powerful energetic kind of expression, really. I mean, I that's what I experienced, and I know that there are spiritual practices around the sounds in Sanskrit themselves.
It makes me wonder, if it wasn't Sanskrit, if the result would have been the same. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't that same particular language. I wonder.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
worth investigating too.
Well, it's interesting because a couple people have said, what about exploring other languages with many words for love, and creating a new list or a new space where you can see those. And so far, there's no other language that has anywhere near this number of words.
I was going to say, it's probably only Sanskrit that has that, but it's worth investigating, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm really interested in collecting some of those other words, and I think the words that a culture uses and their language does say a lot about what they value and the energy of that culture, that civilization.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, I'll definitely be following your work if you start doing that investigation.
Yeah, I would love, contributions if people are familiar with languages that have many words. Greek has something like 4 or 5, and that's the most that I've come up with so far. But there may be more obscure languages.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Arabic has probably like 3 or 4, I would say, as well. I know that there's more. Very nice. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask you my favorite question. What does presence mean to you? And
Presence.
yeah, and have you experienced it while creating?
Presence. Oh, I like that question. What does presence mean to me? Let me, I'm going to just feel into that word itself, because it has verbal connotations, but I feel like the body and the feeling connotations are more interesting. Yeah, I think for me, presence is a state of flow and a timelessness that really does exist for me when I'm in a creative process, or in it to me it feels like being fully in. You're in, and you're following a thread, or you're following a flow that that you're not consciously choosing, you're allowing. I feel like presence has something to do with just simply allowing whatever is to be, and following that. Just attaching yourself to it and sliding down.
So because you're a performance artist, I'd love your take on how you experience presence when you're performing, and how it's different when you were creating the book, for instance. Like how it's, or maybe there's an overlap there. And
I think it's quite different. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. What's the last thing you said?
I just said, take your time. There's, there's no rush.
Thank you. No, I love that question. And they are quite different, because in performance, what's very interesting about and really challenging for me, which I do enjoy, is that you have the energy of the others who are present. I mean, there's the option to perform without an audience. And I think in that you can maintain a kind of vacuum of presence where you're contained within yourself and engaging with an environment. But when I've invited other people in, it's so important to me to also be open to what they're bringing into the performance, what they're like, to know where they are, and to also serve them in my performance or in the space that I'm creating, and that they're there because they've agreed to come into my space. And I want to provide a space for them as well, where they can feel free to express. And then through that dynamic, something else is created, something probably quite different than what I had imagined, or if I had some sort of plan for that space. And so it's much more of a dance in a performance, where I want to be present with myself, but at the same time know where my audience is and what they need. Mm-hmm. and also serve the piece itself. So it's a lot of a in and out kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. When I was working more as an actress, I did notice that I didn't experience presence, or what I would identify as presence. I would go through a performance of scripted acting, and it would feel like I had left my body, essentially, like some other body had done all of that, and I could watch it from above. Oh. And then I'd be back, and everyone would be clapping, or it would be over, and it was like, what just happened?
Oh, that's so fascinating. Oh my god. It makes me want to interview more actors and actresses. Oh. Wow.
It's interesting. It's because you are sort of projecting your consciousness into another being who isn't necessarily a living person, but you give them life in that moment. and you allow them to come in. And so, and I do think that's probably an experience that isn't uncommon among actors, but it's difficult because then you wonder, can I ever do that again? I don't know.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How do I, and especially if you get feedback like, oh, that was great. It's like, oh no, I don't know how I did that. So I personally, I love acting, but I would like to, I like the synthesis that's come from my own performances where I can take the time to drop into myself and then with more volition go into, if there's another character involved, that it's from my own instinct or the motion of my own desire to go more fully into them or to go connect with someone I've invited into my space and work with that in a more flowing way, not in such a like tight constricted space. And then you asked about the difference with making the physical book and that piece, and I would say I feel, I would say a more fully dropped in presence when I'm able to focus on an idea, and that it's not about me at all. I don't I'm there, but it's more like allowing everything to just come in and like use my body to put it where it needs to be.
If I was to take you back to that moment where you had the insight to research this whole thing for the book, do you remember what was going on? Like how that, like that instant, the moment that happened, do you remember how it happened?
I think so. I mean, I think memory is a funny thing.
Yeah. As much as you can get back into that, I'd really.
Right. The way that ideas often work with me is that it is this kind of like pulling, like something is being pulled out and it comes, sometimes it comes head first or tail first, but it's like it's a feeling of like piece by piece something is revealed. And so I would say the moment of, it was an experience I was having with my dog, I would say at the very, like the very birth of it. It was this devotion that I was experiencing with him. I always loved him, but because he wasn't well, it was a different kind of love than I had experienced before, that I felt being like it was pulled out of me, a devotion to a being that was completely relying on me. And I think probably mothers have experienced that. I don't have children. And he's my only dog I ever had, so that I took care of just myself. So I think it really was like, oh, there's different, a really like it brought to light this question of like, there is really more than one flavor of love, really. So then how to talk about that? Oh, we don't have the language, and then boom, it's like that research part of my brain is like, well, where is it? And then starting, the excitement, it really, I would say my memories of the early stages of this project was just that excitement, the chase of the question. And, but it started absolutely deep in my heart.
Nice. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you.
That is really beautiful. What am I going to ask you next?
What do you want?
It's like so many questions that I want to ask. I just make sure that it's
Yeah, take your time.
oh, what's your least favorite thing about being an artist? Or things, maybe there's more than just one. Maybe there's like 10 of them.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've had so many jobs in my life. I have to say, there's so much I really appreciate about being an artist, because I've done so much work that isn't feeding that creativity, or that I'm so appreciative actually of being an artist. But of course it's, oh God, okay. I would say the part I really, that's so hard, but it's also, I think, essential and healing, is all the self-doubt and the self-criticism, which comes up so powerfully. It really, I don't think it ever goes away. It's something that, with every new idea or project, that no matter what, I mean, even with this, it's a very simple project. When it came down to the moment of sharing it, it's this presence that just pops up its ugly head and tells you, who do you think you are to do this? Like,
Yeah.
why you? What's so special about you that you can, you can share this? And it's something that I feel like an artist, or all of us, that we have to make friends with that to a degree, and know that it's going to be there. Oh, it's coming. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm an idiot. I'm not worthy of this.
It's probably the universe's way of humbling us.
Absolutely. I don't.
Like,
Yeah.
yelling.
Yeah. Just that. Yeah. That self-doubt, and it almost, just, it's powerful. It can stop something in its tracks. It can stop you in its tracks. It can talk you into not going forward, or shelving. For every project we put out there, that there are many that have had to die, or just be locked away. And it doesn't mean that they won't come back, but I think it really does require courage to see a project through to the point where you share it. And it's a challenge every time, no matter how many you've shared.
True. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is up for you next? Do you know what you're going to be working on? Do you have any plans to work on anything?
Oh, besides the love book?
Yeah.
Or in terms of like yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Creative projects. I don't know, performances, more books. Just the love book.
Yeah.
Anything really.
Well, I am right now focusing on the love book, and sort of fully expressing what needs to, like, what more I can share with it. I'm working on maybe doing some experiential programs with it, maybe with children. Yeah, and also I'm recording an audio so that people can hear the words with the correct Sanskrit pronunciation who buy the book, or who receive the book, and also shooting a film, like a short film that I had some thoughts around as I've been sharing the book. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But there's definitely more work. There's always more work.
Yeah, of course. So if people wanted to follow your work and find you, where can they, be in touch, or like see what you're up to and how things are evolving with the book and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Instagram is really my hub because it's a place I can share my images and video pretty easily and simply. So life form, one word, projects. So on Instagram or Facebook under my name, Elyse Poppers. So I generally use social media to share those things, but I'll probably be sending out kind of a newsletter type email around the book and any events that I'm doing. The actual release date for the book is December 7th. So on Amazon. So I'm taking pre-orders right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. There was a couple more questions I wanted to ask.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Do you have a favorite artist or artwork lately that you're following or anything like that?
Oh, I have so many.
Share a few.
Yeah, that's like,
Please do.
ah,
Then I can follow them too.
yeah.
This is a little selfish on my part, but hey.
No, I think we could have a whole interview just about that. Like, who do we like? Who's amazing? Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Wow, that's such a hard question. Where do I even start? There's really incredible LA artists right now making work. There's an artist named Corazon del Sol. She's she grew up in Colombia and Los Angeles, and her mother was also an artist, Eugenia Butler, and she does conceptual work and visual work, and a lot of her work is based on like breaking family patterns and energetic patterns, ritual, magic. She did a show last year in LA called Let Power Take the Female Form. That was amazing. And she did a show this year in LA that was 30 Colombian artists. So she curates as well as makes work. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I love her. She's a friend, which helps.
Oh, cool. Really
check out Corazon del Sol. She's really...
Yeah, I will. And also I wanted to ask about performers.
Oh, performers.
If anyone comes to mind, I mean.
Yeah, there's a wonderful place here in LA called the Women's Center for Creative Work. Mm-hmm. And there are incredible women doing performances through that center. I just took a class with a woman named Gina Young, who's an actress, but also does performance. And she does something called the feminist acting class that's open to women and men, that sort of complicates the idea of traditional acting and any of the kind of boundaries that's taught us, and really opens up the genre of performance to think critically about the way we perform and what we perform. And it's really incredible. I would really encourage everybody to check that out. And if you're in LA, to just check out what's happening at the Women's Center for Creative Work. They're doing really groundbreaking, interesting stuff.
Nice. So my next question is, if you had to do this life over again, would you still want to be an artist?
Sure. Sure. If that's what was happening, I have, it's not an easy path, I would say. It's a beautiful path, and I very much love it, but I also I definitely have, desires to go live in a very, simple, more private way, and grow vegetables and take care of animals and cook and you know, I would love to also have a vocation where, you know, my goal was to grow the most beautiful pumpkin or the most delicious apple or garlic. And um you know, I'm I'm an omnivore, so I really, everything is pretty appealing to me. Most things I could see myself having a pretty good time, and that's just not possible to do it all. But you know, when I'm after I've put out a lot of energy into a project, a performance, something that's been like a long process, I do like to take a little break and not necessarily continue to like sit down and figure out what the next thing is, but do something different, like gardening or just being out in the woods, or you know, or even doing something, you know, really practical.
So if you weren't an artist, you'd be running a farm? Nice. I
I
like
think so. Yeah, I think so. I would have like animals, and I would want to spin wool and weave and, you know, grow things. And yeah, it would probably still be creative, but yeah, I love gardens, and that would be really
too. Hey.
fun.
You could probably still do that.
Yeah, I do have a garden, and I love it. But it's always, you know, it's like working on this book, it's, you know, I definitely had to be in front of a computer, and, you know, I had a little camping desk, and I would sit outside sometimes in the garden, at my desk. So I wasn't inside. I don't like to be inside too much.
Yeah,
So
it's good to get a balance.
yeah.
So my last question for you is, what do you think it means to be a successful artist?
Hmm.
In
Hmm.
this day and age, what would it mean to be a successful artist? Is it how many followers you have on Facebook and Instagram?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, just
Seems to be there are people that are just really good.
that would be the answer, but
No. I think there are people that are very skilled in the art of getting followers on Facebook and Instagram. That's their particular art form.
that's another art form. Yep.
That's an art form, yeah. I think the idea of successful to me feels like um, having the space to make what you want to make, really. I think there are artists that you would see as successful that have a lot of public exposure and support themselves financially and many expensive projects, but if they're not making work that they want to make, or that if they feel at all constricted, I wouldn't I personally wouldn't see that as successful. To me, it's a combination of having the space to make the work, whatever it is, um, and yeah, and actually making the work that is calling you. And you know, in order to do that, you know, I still have my day job. I'm doing private investigation work part-time, for my old company that I used to work for. And I think that's the most important thing for an artist, is just to set yourself up so you have the space and the freedom to create.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps it's about being successful in more ways than just one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the balance,
Mhm.
in, you know, just doing the dance of balancing and like dynamically responding to what's happening, whatever that is, so that you can continue to do what calls you.
Yeah. Nice. So I am all out of questions.
That was fun.
But that was it was lovely chatting with you. And I'll definitely be following you to see what else is going to come up and where the little love book is going. It's probably going to end up to be a ginormous, big, huge love book.
Right? The love encyclopedia.
There you go. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Susie. This is so much fun. We should have more conversations. I want to hear more about you too next time.
Sure. Next time.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.